that makes somebody human in this day and in this age. As we speak, there are movements to make people human again. Movements that are championing the need for people to be human. And so, you find a situation whereby, despite the advancements of science, it is now more than ever that we need to discover new knowledge about who we are as a people, as humans. We as humanities scholars, we engage in what is subjective reality. A reality that is very challenging. A reality that is not objective in the sense of finding the truth. Because the truth, between you and I, the truth differs, and fact differs. Although as scholars we say that we engage in objective research, but we are engaging in objective research as humanities scholars and in a subjective way. Because every one of the reality that we engage in, if it's perspective, if it is childhood, if it is prostitution, if it is gender, every single thing deals about the humanity of the local or the global, as the case may be. So we have, therefore, the laboratory of the humanities. We have it on the streets as against the specimens as we have it in the laboratories as far as the natural science scholars are concerned. And we all know that there's a challenge in subjective research. The challenge of subjectivity is such that it is overwhelming. And so no matter the kind of truth we aim to attain, that truth inevitably will again be challenged by different perspectives, by an opposing experience, by a school or group of scholars that feel or research differently. So therefore we have the dynamics of the human experience, so varied. And so we as humanities scholars, we are engaged in the discovery of understanding. Not even, I dare say, not even the discovery of knowledge. As humanities scholars, we are engaged in the discovery of understanding. So, in a way, contribution to knowledge is different from contribution to understanding. Because your knowledge may be different from mine. The way you understand marriage may be different from mine. The way you understand childhood will be different from mine. So if I've written an article, and I've written about childhood, for instance, and I'm saying that I'm contributing to knowledge, it is better if I say that I'm contributing to understanding. Because as humanities scholars, we are trying to make sure that humanity understands itself well enough. Because if we do not understand ourselves well enough, the AI that we have a rival already. We have a competition that if care is not taken, will quote and unquote understand us far much more differently than we understand ourselves. And we know as human beings, individual selfhoods, even we confuse ourselves. Sometimes as human beings, we deceive ourselves. Sometimes we try to make ourselves look good because we have internal crisis in our personalities. So even for us to understand ourselves individually or collectively is a challenge. And it's more so, therefore, for the scholar who wants to engage in objective research. And so, we are different from the scientists, the natural scientists, because we interrogate love, we interrogate hate, we interrogate wealth, poverty, relationships, fear, and anxiety. These are things that AI does not have the empathy to align with. And as long as science advances, these things, our hate, our love, our marriages, will continue to be fundamental in the way and manner we engage reality. And so the rigor of our interrogation, of course, it must have been said, is expectedly tiring. And of course, humanity is one of the most difficult aspects of existence, complex to explain, but dynamically challenging. I said earlier that we as scholars, we practice in a culture, within a culture of disdain. So how can we then promote ourselves in an era, in an environment that prioritizes materiality, tangibility, in a culture that is pseudo-intellectual at best? Is there knowledge? We need to ask ourselves, therefore, is knowledge for knowledge's sake a wasteful effort? Because that's the argument many humanities scholars prefer. That, okay, humanities scholars were producing knowledge. In some quarters, they say that there's even no need to prefer to make recommendations, because recommendations are embedded in the scholarship. The recommendations are embedded in the research results. And so, we need to ask ourselves the question, are we promoting ourselves well enough? Is the human experience worth studying? We need to ask ourselves, are older humanities studies, are they pure waste of time when you compare to the Teslas, to the General Electric, you know? Our current studies, if we look at ourselves, the researches we have done, are we mere distracting ourselves? And we need to also know, we do anyway, just to remind ourselves, that there have been two humanities, like it has been, like we historians, we normally differentiate between pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial period. There's an old humanity that's about to go, and there's a new humanity that is coming in. The old humanity was analog. It was the analog version. The new humanity, we are all experiencing it, is digital. Meaning that we need to redefine what humanity is. We need to redefine who really is a human in the 21st century. Who is a human? Some time ago, I'm sure we saw this video. Some time ago, there was a video of a robot walking around the streets of China. And of a lady in miniskirts, and she was walking all around, and of course people were taking snapshots, you know, going around her, and she was just walking around, and that video was so funny, because here you have an AI, a robot, walking on the streets of humans, and despite the fact of the razzmatazz, she couldn't feel anything. In the video, you could see that she could not, she came walking around, stood at the bus stop, and you know that this person is not feeling anything. If it is an ordinary human being, the person will have felt some shame, some, you know, when you are focused on, there's a way you feel, you become uncomfortable. She didn't feel that way. And we're already having those kind of people walking around us. So there's nothing those in the natural sciences want to invent or discover that will empathize with humanity itself. So no matter how intelligent AI is, that deficiency is what we as humanities scholars will have to exploit. We'll exploit that. We'll have to start looking for the weaknesses, for the deficiencies that is inherent in artificial intelligence. Those deficiencies are what we need to design our research agenda. And so we need to ask ourselves the question, what role will our hate, our love, our curiosity, our perception, what will it play in our bid for us to remain relevant? Because we need to keep asking questions about this. So I want to, again, ask ourselves the questions. As a scholar, what I normally often ask myself is, what is really my over? What is really my direction as a scholar? You know, and we may want to hide under the fact that after all, we know what we're doing. After having obtained a PhD, having lectured for many years in the university, of course I should know. What am I really doing as a humanities scholar? Am I a scholar in the first place? Am I a scholar? It is one thing to be an academic, to be a lecturer in a university. It's another thing entirely to be a scholar. They are two different things. I need to ask myself, what am I writing? I need to ask myself, is my writing shaping thoughts and trends in local development? What I'm writing, is it shaping advancement? And of course, given the environment that I work on, I need to ask myself that, are my leaders inspired by my writings? My leaders. The leaders that lead the local environment, the national environment. Are they inspired by my writing? Of course, if I need to ask myself, are the leaders reading at all? Not talk of being inspired. Is my scholarship redefining technology? Is it redefining culture? I need to ask myself if modernity is taking a cue from my scholarship. Is my scholarship resulting in different pathways in modernity? Am I writing? I need to ask myself this. Am I writing or doing my scholarship so that I can become a professor? Again, there are two different things. I may be producing researches only to become a professor. If that is what I'm doing, I'm not supposed to be in the business at all. So I shouldn't be doing research in order to become a professor. It should be the least. Because becoming a professor doesn't indicate finality in scholarship. It doesn't. Am I encumbered by the desire to be cited? Is my scholarship generating new meanings? Am I inspired as a scholar? Am I inspired? These are questions that are self-made. And as a scholar, I need to define what my job is as different from what my career is, and as different from what my calling as a person is. My job is the everyday administration, everyday marking of script. My job is the everyday teaching. My job is every day to attend meetings. Those are routine things. And I need to come to the conclusion that my career is something a little higher than the job, than the routine. And that career, if I'm at that stage and I realize that I'm in a career, I will focus on my training. That's exactly what the Faculty of Humanities is doing now. The focus of my training, I will focus on making sure I advance beyond the PhD. I need to understand that after having a PhD, the PhD is not the final license. I need to move on to the postdoctoral stage and keep on learning. Because the PhD is not really. I always ask myself, Tunde, don't deceive yourself. When I got the PhD, I felt on top of the world. I was tempted not to do anything further. In fact, 1 or 2 years after that, I was relishing in my PhD thesis. I kept on looking at it. But I have to come to a stage whereby I need to ask myself the question, is this all I want to do? I need to move on in this career. And then moving on the career, I need to understand that eventually what I will become will manifest the fact that this thing where I am is actually a calling. So I need to differentiate between what is a job, what is my career, and whether I'm actually here for the long haul. Am I called to be a scholar? If I'm not called to be a scholar, I don't have a calling. And so it is very, very important. I need to ask myself very significant questions. If I'm not called to be a scholar, I should be somewhere else. Honestly, sometimes I always admire the footballers, because the footballers are doing what they love to do. So making money is just a pastime. Making money is just by the way. They are enjoying themselves while they are doing what they love to do. So if I'm not at that position, I should leave this job. I should leave this career. I shouldn't be. If I'm not at the position whereby I love what I'm doing, I always tell my students in class that I'm cheating my university. I said it one day at the Senate meeting, and everybody started looking at me when I said that I'm cheating this university. And I really feel that way. I'm cheating my university because this is what I love to do. And the university is paying me salary for doing what I love to do. Is that not cheating? How can somebody be paying you to do what you love to do? You are cheating the system. So I need to come to that point, because I am doing this. And so if my salary comes, to God be the glory. But I need to also pay school fees anyway of my children. but then I need to derive satisfaction for what I'm doing. If I don't, we need to ask ourselves, if somebody picks up our CV, if somebody picks up my CV, with the benefit of hindsight, will that person say, this person has a sense of direction? Am I publishing on different topics in different places? Am I focused? If they pick up my CV, will they ask me, Tunde, Baba, this guy has a direction in life? Will that be the case? The new humanity is here. It's here with us. We have no choice but to embrace it. We have no choice but to examine its weaknesses. We have no choice but to develop research agenda from the weaknesses that we have identified in the new humanity. We stand at the crossroads. Right now, scientists are developing contact protocols between man and machine, how they can integrate us as human beings into the age. And so, the discovery understanding, not knowledge, is a should be a major determinant of our focus as humanities scholar. As we have, the human subject will remain central in the foreseeable future. There's no better time to do that other than now. We'll discover that the old determinants of ethnicity, of nepotism, of livelihood, wealth, failure, race, those old determinants are being redrafted, even by ourselves, not even by AI. The way we see marriage today is not the way marriage was seen in pre-colonial time. The way we see courtship today, the way we consider love, is not the same thing. We all know, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we all know that in Israel, that when a child is born, he's raised up in the culture of skepticism, of, I dare say, of hate, in a culture of having to understand your environment. Averagely, once the Israeli child is born, he's trained in such a way as to understand that this nation is surrounded by challenges. And so every family is trained to understand that any day could be the last. Any day could be war. And so that cultures like that need to be interrogated. We have those things here in Nigeria. I always wonder when, thank God there's no white person here. You know, when British American scholars, when they come to Africa and they spend 2 months. And the 2 months, they gather data for 2 months, and then they go back, they write a monologue. They write a book about research data that is gathered within a period of 2 months. They write an article. And they often see us as having a lot of empirical data. And so sometimes the scholarship of those in the Americas, those in Britain, is such that it is driven from the data that abounds that we take for granted. Every single thing, every single experience we have, it matters. There was a day that I was in a public bus I was going from Ibadan. I was going to Osogbo. And at that point in time, there was a law that only 3 people will be carried in a bus, 3 people for each row. So this bus carried 4, making, I think, 16. The 2 in front would make 18 passengers. So it carried 4. And you know now, people who like us, you want to at least try to say that, but you're supposed to carry 3 now. First of all, I was looked at as if, is this one alive or is he dead? Does he not know the reality here? So now, where I was seated, he carried 4. I was still grumbling. While I was grumbling, he carried another passenger who's supposed to be, of course, the guy was a bus conductor. So he wanted to follow us to Osogbo. And the same guy sat down on the place where 4 people were supposed to sit. As I grumbled throughout. But then, realities like that are so interesting that we need to design, we can design research agendas on the capacity of Nigerians to withstand poverty, to withstand pressure. That, for the sociologists, I'm sure, people must have written about it, but it's very, very interesting. And so we have data, more than enough for us to interrogate humanity as different from. And then we need to, of course, to know AI. We really need to do so. Because it's only when you get close to somebody, even sometimes to the point of too much familiarity, that's when you get to know how weak the strengths and the character flaws of the person is. And so that's the kind of relationship I think our humanities scholars should develop with artificial intelligence. In developing that kind of relationship with artificial intelligence, we can know its weaknesses, and then we can be able to design a research agenda. The trump card of humanity over other natural phenomenon is its power of empathy. AI cannot even grasp this at all. The time is short, and the time is here, by which we need to redefine ourselves, redefine our scholarship, redefine the new humanity, redefine the new culture. And we need to ask ourselves the question, what really is humanities studies for? I thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. There are questions I would like to. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Please, a further round of applause. Thank you so much, sir. So he has thrown the ball into our court. Redefining the humanities, what exactly would be our role? What will be our place in that? We're going to give room for a couple of questions. Do we have questions? Yes. We're going to give room for just a couple questions. We're going to take that. Do we have questions? Yes. Questions? Do we have questions? Some of us had questions also yesterday based on, okay, sir. Okay, so I already have one. Some of us also had questions from yesterday's discussion. Okay, we have two. Do we have, okay, we have three. And that's all. So we have one, two, three, four. All right, please, I would urge that we come a little closer so that we can take the question and then we'll have them responded to, particularly those of us way behind.
Thank you so much, Professor Tunde Decker. Thank you for that incisive and well-enunciated lecture. I will take the question from the angle of what humanity is. If you look at the discussion, for those who were here yesterday, you would take note that humanity was never defined. Either by both by the two professors that talked about, they never defined it. But it just led us to see, based on observation, what it is. What is the difference between humanities, or humanistic studies, and science? Because as for me, it's one and the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So quickly, let's make this snappy too.
Thank you, sir. I sat here and I was digesting all that the professor was saying. And then what I want to say is that it prompted me to reflect when I was admitted to University of Obafemi Awolowo, religious study. So I got there, I could see all my mates all bow their head. And when we are doing the general studies, we are with the law student and everything, I saw their head bow. Then I keep asking myself, what's so special about religious study and philosophy that I combine with? I really want to stand tall. I can't just, everybody else is down. Then I spend time. The reason why I want to ask is that, can you give us this step for reflecting on who we are? So after some time, whenever we gather with the law student, I will say, you can give all your knowledge to the society, but we must scrutinize that knowledge so that it will not inform bad behavior. I start bringing why we are so special. And when they look at me, I'm going, every one of them will wave to me because they see that I take time to reflect who we are as religious study. I am not a pastor. I just want to know all your knowledge and ensure as a philosopher that I critique it that is in line with the idea, the whole that I have think about through, to see your place of individuality, how it combines, and I'll be able to bring out the loophole and expose it. So, sir, I just feel during those process of reflection, I'm able to find ground there. So whenever I am doing my stuff, I know what I am doing. So the place of reflection, sir, I really want you to help us to expatiate on that. I know you just brought through it. So that's my question, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, we urge that you come quickly closer so that we can attend to you, but we'll take the third person here since it's closer. So please come closer.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor. I tried to follow everything you said, but there was one thing that struck me particularly when you said subjective realities. Now, in philosophy, and philosophy is also part of humanities, philosophy tells you that reality is not subjective, that reality is reality, and what differs is perspectives. So that was just what came to my head when you mentioned a few times subjective realities. So in studying humanities, can you marry these two ideas? Because philosophy is part of humanities. Can you marry these two ideas of subjective realities and philosophy saying that reality is one, but perspective is multiple? Thank you very much.
Enhance humanities. My doctoral student and I, we just concluded a kind of project. And that project is to see how students of English and lecturers of English even perceive this generative AI use and its impact on academic integrity. It is interesting to know that everyone, both lecturers and students, they use AI. They use AI. So if you are a lecturer and you are still saying you used AI to do your assignment, I will not mark it. You are deceiving yourself and you are not helping that student. I think in the English department, we learn how to use the English language. And you will discover that learning effectively, are you listening? Learning language effectively involves immersion. You need to immerse yourself in the use of that language for you to be proficient in that language. And how many of us can afford to travel to London to go and immerse ourselves in the English society? What do we resort to? We resort to AI. So I think our focus in the English department is not to stop students from using it. It is our duty to train them on how to effectively handle AI to enhance their learning, their research, and even to train teachers to use AI effectively. So we need to reimagine the English studies in the face of technology. What do we mean by reimagining? Reimagining is the act of forming a new, creative, or different conception of something familiar, essentially seeing or designing it in a fresh way. So we need to decolonize our curriculum. I also want to put this in. We are studying a foreign language, which is English. And we study it from a different worldview because we are not English. So the product of that is what we have as the Nigerian English. As English scholars, we must put all effort to standardizing that Nigerian English because that is us. So if we still, at this time, at this age, keep saying Nigerian English is not standardized, who will standardize it for us? You know, that's the post-colonialism problem we are talking about. We are still waiting for the British to standardize our Nigerian English variety before we can say we are proud of it. We need to reimagine that. Okay, sorry. I have so much to say, but he said my time is up. So what are the specific steps to take? Actually, thank you. This challenge should be seen as a transformative opportunity for us. We should not regard it as a crisis at all. So what do we do when we are regarding it as a transformative opportunity? We must not be defensive. We need to stop defending ourselves. We need to regard it as an offensive. And when we regard it as an offensive, you prepare yourself. You bring out instruments. You bring out tools to fight it. And how do we do this? Instead of constantly justifying why English studies should continue to exist as a course, our departments should use this moment to build something new, proving that English graduates are the best candidates to navigate AI ethics and correct distortions. Professor Tunde, was saying that the robot was walking on the streets. And regardless of the stares and the condemnation given, it did not feel anything. So when we are using AI, we must train our students to put in the into the youth. We must train them to identify the shortcomings and then to fill that gap. We shouldn't discourage them. Then we need to demystify practice multidisciplinarity. We must integrate other designs because we are humans. We cannot live in isolation of other humanity disciplines. We need to, Professor Oladipupo was saying there is medical humanities, environmental humanities. I was telling some of my students that, do they know that there is forensic linguistics? There is forensic linguistics. I was trained to determine who a student is through his or her writing. So when I see a kind of scribbling, I will know that that student may be suffering from psychological disorders. I will know through a handwriting whether that person is a relatable person or not. What do you understand about this discipline called humanities? How of language, how do you relate with your students to solve their problems? You know, I was telling somebody that language is even the vehicle through which we drive all these things. It is either we scatter it or we bring them, we unify them. So I want to say that AI, technology, has come to make our job much easier. It depends on how open we are to all these challenges. And I believe that from the humanities perspective, we can change the world of technology. We can affect technology by filling the gaps that we are all complaining about today. Thank you very much.
Well, you have heard her. I think you should just make some slight comments down. And when all the speakers have spoken, now take the questions. Because I saw some people just there, just been writing. They didn't look up. Thank you. I'll go to this side and take one professor. I'm so blessed this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Dean. I call on Professor Dairo.
Thank you very much, Chairman, members of the panel, and the conferee. I want to say that I deliberately put on this clothes today because of what I have to do here. You see, when you see somebody like this, the next thing is to say is a reverend. I hope that that is understood. When I was given admission to University of Ibadan years back for religious studies, my attitude was that, what will I do with it? I'm not ready to become a reverend or a pastor. Why should I go and study religious studies? In fact, my target was law. After that, economics. But when I was not given, I even wanted to do history. I was not given because of a particular point. And he said, I should come for religious studies. If I knew then that that is actually what God wanted for me, but I would have accepted it with all gladness. But for 2 weeks, I didn't go for lectures at all. I said I was not interested. But later, when somebody encouraged me, I said, okay, let me just give it a trial and see what will come out of it. I thank God I gave it a trial, and today, I have no cause to regret. Well, the book in humanities generally now is Humanities Conference is all about. That is, the imagining humanities, interdisciplinary of humanities to drive innovation and research. No doubt, religious studies is not a silo. It is a hub. That is, it is the pivot on which all courses within the humanities revolve. Religion shapes law, art, language, conflict resolution, ethics, and also identity. When religious studies links arms with other humanities fields, you will get new methods, new questions, and new impacts. There are so many ways in which religious studies, in connection with other courses within the humanities, can drive innovation in a changing world. And this includes, but not limited to the following. First, I want to talk about the connection between religious studies and digital humanities. You can have digital humanities with religious studies using digital text for analysis. And in fact, that is what most of our PG students do now. They use digital analysis for interpretation of biblical text, either Hebrew or Greek. And in fact, most of our students use digital humanities for so many things now, especially the use of AI. I thank God I had a course in AI about 2 years ago. And that actually exposed me to a lot of things as regards artificial intelligence. So if you use purely artificial intelligence to bring anything to me, I discover it. Because you have to use it with your own knowledge. Add your knowledge to it. Not that just bring it, download it, print it, and take it to your supervisor or whatever, and think that they won't even be able to know what is there. And they will be praising you that, oh, this is a very good one. No. No. There are a lot of things that we have to go into it. But we do use this so much now in religious studies. Then we have cross-pollination in teaching. For instance, you can teach literature and religious studies. You can teach philosophy and religious studies, especially when you talk about the problem of evil in philosophy. Even you can teach theater with religious studies. And in fact, that is why we have a diploma in Christian drama now, theater arts, Christian drama. We have degree, we have postgraduate diploma in theater arts, Christian drama now. So it's a very good. I want to appreciate our father here for approving that for us. So we really thank God for this. Then this issue of cross-pollination of a teaching cut across all areas of discipline. And in fact, what we do in religious studies now is interdisciplinary research. You can't just bring a particular topic and say that you are teaching without connecting it to the society. What is happening in the society presently? So it is just literature review. It was in those days that we were doing literature review religious studies. We are not doing just literature review now. You connect your topic to a particular problem. And that is the essence of research. Research is out to solve problems. So if you are not bringing something that will solve a particular problem in the society, you have not done anything. So we can combine with economics, with political science, with the theater arts, with English, with history, to do a lot of things now. And by the time our eyes were open to all this, we saw that, oh, so there is a lot to religious studies. It is not just mere reading the Bible and interpreting it or preaching or teaching the Bible. It is more than that. So there can be research frontiers at the intersections area of law and religious studies. For instance, you can have research on how Sharia courts, canon law, and customary law interact in Nigeria's pluralistic system, or inform policy on religious freedom versus safeguarding minors. Then, history can be combined with religious studies. For instance, we can have religious studies frameworks to reinterpret 1804 Sokoto Jihad or 1960 Aladura Revival. So all these things are what we are doing to ensure that religious studies is not just studying the Bible alone, but we solve one particular problem or the other within the society. More than that, I want to ask now, why is this matter very important to us now in Nigeria? This issue of interdisciplinary research. Because people just do that. If you are for history, just study history. If you are for English, study English. If you are for theater art, just study theater art. It is now more than that in this contemporary Nigeria. So we have curriculum crisis presently in Nigeria now, where federal government wants to phase out courses with intellectual, with limited real world value. I believe that is not a news. You know that. When the federal government said, okay, all the courses without real world value are going to be phased out in the university because they are not contributing anything. So can we say that courses in humanities are not contributing to real world value? No, we contribute more. And that's why we have to engage in interdisciplinary research so that whatever course you are doing, by the time they discover that, oh, it is not just religious studies, it's contributing a lot to the development of the society, contributing to politics, contributing to economics, contributing to socio-economic development of the society. People will look at you and say, yeah, so you study religious studies. Look at all the lectures we have been having since yesterday. Can you say that the person that delivered the keynote is nobody? No. Look at all the lectures we have been having. They are solving particular one problem or the other within the society. And that is what humanity is all about. So in conclusion, it should be noted that innovation happens at the edges. So religious studies connect because religious never lived alone. Religion never lived alone. So we have to note this. So it is in the noble. I believe English people here, they know that religion is in the noble. More than that, it is in theater, it is in sociology, and also in politics. We can hardly mention any course within the humanities where religious studies is not having its impact, either directly or indirectly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I hope you are noting all these major differences. I'm beginning to regret I didn't read a little bit of everything. So I would have had BA English Religion, Theater Arts. I call on Professor of Theater Arts, Professor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, our host, the Dean Faculty of Humanities. And thank you, our conferee, for making yourself available. Yesterday to this moment and listening to my Oga professors, I think, what will a small professor like me had? Whichever way, I think we should look at this generally. Let's take it off from the definition provided for science and humanities. So when we talk about science, we are looking at the studies of physical and natural environment as it has to do with either living or non-living, human and non-human species, and then we look at how it affects humans and the rest. Through systematic observation and experimenting and the rest. What do we do in the humanities? The same. To carry out the research in any other area, we experiment, we observe, then we document the process. And if you cast your mind back to the time past, to the classical period, the greatest intellectual and most important humans in the society were the philosophers. Those who think. Humanities are thinkers. So, and then from humanities, we are going to have expansion into different areas of human endeavor, medicine, geography, geology, and whichever area you want to talk about. Now, let me bring it back to my field of theater arts or film studies. One of the first things you need to understand is that there is no human research that is self-contained. We work in relationship with other fields. I'll take it when I was doing my PhD. I had 6 assessor committees who look at your PhD where I did mine, and then they are taken from different areas of studies. I worked on, like I used to say, I stood on the shoulders of giants to be a doctor and a professor. I have him as chairman here. I researched the work of Professor Ahmed Yerima. And it will interest you that for the basic fact that I was researching on Professor Ahmed Yerima and the drama of his drama, I got an all, how am I going to say it? I paid no funding. I was paid to do that research at Leiden University in the Netherlands, where everything was taken care of. So not because I was studying medicine or studying geology. And during my assessment of my research, I had a professor from history, professor from anthropology, ethnography, and professor of Hausa language, and then professor of performance studies. All these people had to assess different areas of my research. So what is more interdisciplinary than this? So by the time I come back to my job here in the Redeemer's University, I learned one thing, that I have to work with all other areas. Since 2013, thereabout, 90% of my research has been done with people in management sciences, in literary studies, in Christian religious studies, in different areas. And in 2024, even in philosophy, I list with all of them. I look at different areas of thought, from marriages to polygamy, to church and Pentecostalism, to the subject of death and burial. And interest you, I look at the economy of burial. So that brought, you see the area of management into it. I was discussing that with you yesterday, that I want to work on the death and burial pattern of the Gede people of Benue State, Benue and across River State. So I look at it from the area of performance, and somebody have to look at the economic part of it and what it costs people to engage in this. For us as a theater artist, just as we go to the church, a pastor is on the pulpit. He has to learn how to speak, how to focus on the audience. He's performing. And we as a theater artist, sometimes we get there, we laugh and say, oh, you are doing our job. Take it away from us. So, and let's now narrow it down. To make a film or do a play, I have with me Professor Ahmed Yerima that is sharing this very session. He will never begin a play without adequate research into the different areas that he wants to write on. I think we deserve a round of applause right now. So, if I'm going to make a film, just like there was a Nigerian medical scientist in the U.S., O'Malley, Professor O'Malley, discovered this scientific area of concussion, and a film was made on it. Okay, a film, not a paper. The film is art. So there was never a time that AI or digital humanity or whatever you call it has been absent from humanity. There was never a time. We have always been using it. So what we're doing is that we just come self-constrained, and now we are reimagining it, looking at what we lost and where we ought to be and where we are. So the moment that we realize that we were doing a lot of harm to ourselves by coming narrower, then we know that we are the one who destroy what we had and then place ourselves below the level of those who were supposed to be studying us. So to work on cancer, to write a play on cancer, or to do a drama on cancer, or be on film or on stage, the first thing Professor Ahmed Yerima would do, or any playwright would do, is to go to the field, research into this very area, look at the costs, and look at how to either slow the development or the new advance in research that has come forth. So what is more interdisciplinary in it? And then whatever you do in the lab as a scientist, then you need to communicate it to the public. So how do you communicate it to the public? So the first thing is that you need those who are within the field of communication and the field of theater and film to help you relate it and pass it across to the people in the society. Your research, your design remain in the lab or on the shelf until the people interaction with it. Whatever you're making is being made for the people, not for yourself. And then the problem we tend to have when we begin to look at the relevance of humanities, relevance of theater, or philosophy, or whatever, is because of the so-called economic empowerment or emancipation that we're driving towards, money market. Everything that is done is that whatever that can bring money, instant money, is what we want to go into. That is actually not going to work, because those who are in other fields will not be able to afford whatever you're coming up with. So why do we research into the past? We research into the past, just as we do in the theater. We have historical drama, okay? We have religious drama. We look at socio-political contextualization of what is happening, socio-political reality. So in the field of theater, we've evolved so many theories that are geared towards addressing the societal needs. And then we come in, we develop a drama or around this, and then we go back to the public. Theater for development. What do we do with it? We look at every issue and challenges within the society, and then we come to you. We ask what your need is, what you're facing. How can we remove this? Then together we'll find solution, and then we turn into dramatic piece for you to see, and then you learn from it. I don't think science will teach you that. The so-called core or natural science, as they have it, they will be in the lab making the medication or drug, but the fact remains that it will remain there. Look at the shape of the sole drug we have. It's art. It's art. So if the car you drive, design is from the artist. Okay, he drew this based on his own imagination. And look at the development that we're going in warfare and even AI. If I remember the film iRobot, Will Smith, it was a projection into the future, and that's what you have. And then when we sit here and talk about AI as if it's a new thing, there's something wrong with us as people in the humanities studies. From the moment computer come to us, we'll be interacting with it. We do our research, you go on Google, you Google it, and then you get material done, you research. What is so new about AI? And now when we look at the challenges we have in place, 1 minute, we're having it now is that look at the people in film. But the moment then we are making one-man film, use AI to make film. What happened to every other person who are involved in the filmmaking? Then you're taking the job of them. Then the same situation of economic empowerment we're trying to create, you're reversing it. So that's the problem we're going to have, because one man who doesn't know anything about the theater, nothing about film, just stay in his living room, prompt the AI to give him a story with a little bit idea, get it, and then throw it back, and then make a character out of it. And the characters are made before you say Jack. He has a film, and then all those who studied, even the medicine and the rest, if I needed anything, then everything is gone. So we need to be reflective and look at where we're going, and then say how important our field of studies or our discipline is, and then look at how that we're not to be self-contained. We should span. The question I was going to raise yesterday when the session was going on has to do with the expansion of humanities. We're expanding. We're bringing in all other fields into us. We are not evolving. We're just expanding. Thank you.
We are expanding. I'll give you a short story about expansion. I think I went to Germany, and they said they wanted me to talk about drama, but I will listen and give a talk. And I went in there, and I said, what's this talk about? And they said it's about witchcraft. And I said, where? In Germany? He said, yes. I said, I came all the way from Nigeria to talk about witchcraft. And they said, yes, that is basic studies in understanding the sciences and the behavioral patterns of human beings in the world. Ahmed, you have witchcraft in Nigeria?
Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Comment allez-vous? You will imagine that this man is speaking in tongues. I have just 10 minutes, And like my predecessors have spoken concerning their disciplines, I have to talk about French. There is no doubt about it that many of us had opportunities, whether in primary school or secondary school, or when we got to the tertiary institution, to study French, just a little bit of it, but we lost interest as a result of maybe the discouragement of the teachers, or because we didn't have any motivation for it, either intrinsic or extrinsic. What do I want to do with French? Idekede. And many of the teachers in French, or teachers of French, are usually given the longest number of nicknames in schools. Maman parler, Baba parler, écoutez, and different things that can even discourage the teachers. It's after some years that some of our former mates in secondary school lost interest in French, discovered that they lost a golden opportunity to get international appointments, all because of French. So I want to whet your appetite this morning and plead that it is never too late for you to go back to French. And that is part of what we want to discuss. French is the second most widely spoken language in the world. And as far back as 1996 or thereabout, our leader then in Nigeria, the late General Abacha, made a statement that French will become Nigeria's second international language. Unfortunately, there was nothing written to back it up. So up to today, French is still floating. It is not taken seriously because it is not part of the compulsory subjects in the curriculum, even though Nigeria is surrounded by Francophone countries. You get out of the border of Nigeria, you encounter French-speaking people, apart from the southern part, which is the Atlantic Ocean. So politically, economically, socially, culturally, and in diverse ways, we gain a lot from the knowledge of French. So if you have French as another international language added to English, you stand a better opportunity when you go for job interviews in most cases. But nowadays, we are rethinking of how to encourage the present generation of learners to make use of what they have to get what they don't have. And that is the aspect of technology, AI. We are in a globalized world, and we are operating in digital space, economy, etc., etc. Every one of us has at least one phone, maybe iPhone or whatever. We can make use of these materials to acquire skills in different languages according to your personal interest. Generally speaking, we have 4 basic language skills. Listening skill, ability to listen and to understand what is being said in that language. Secondly, we have speaking skill, ability to speak and be understood. Third is the reading skill, ability to read and to understand what you are writing, what you are reading in text written in that language. And number 4, writing skill. Now, talking about interdisciplinarity of French vis-a-vis other disciplines, either in humanities or outside humanities. French is useful to those in theater arts, my Oga, because there are so many texts written in French that can be read. If you are French literate, you analyze them, you write papers on them, you publish, and you make progress. In language and linguistics, there are vast areas that can interest you, either in phonetics, in phonology, morphology of French, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, and so on and so forth. What about in culture and history, even in religious studies, cognizant of the fact that France has been a Catholic-based country, you may be interested in reading about the development of religion in France, or what is happening to the present generation with regard to the development of religion. Because in most cases, abroad nowadays, it is the grandparents and the grandchildren that go to church. Youths are no longer interested. On Sundays, they go to the beach, they go to the hotel to enjoy themselves, and they leave their children and their parents to spend time in the church, and so on and so forth. So you can make your research in that, and so on and so forth. Then, if you're interested in literature, which aspect of literature? That is Francophone African literature, Francophone Caribbean literature, Metropolitan French literature. Which era, which period? Literature written by who? By male writers, by female writers, by conservative writers, by radical writers, and so on and so forth. And how about the teaching methodologies? The traditional method that we were using before the introduction of the direct method. Then we are not trying to encourage teachers of French, and that is the innovation that I want to talk about, to make use of social media platforms. You have Duolingo, you have WhatsApp, you have Instagram, and the rest of them that can be incorporated into your teaching of French to facilitate learning. Because we believe that if you want to catch a monkey, you must behave like a monkey. Obeisance to the elders in the house, for using that proverb. We are dealing with youths in most of our institutions. And youths are so interested in the use of their phones. So, why not encourage the use of phones in the teaching of this foreign language? Allow them, yes, I'm rounding up. Allow them to make use of their phones to acquire the skills by giving them sites to navigate, by giving them instructions, by giving them assignments, activities to do with their phones that will help them to easily acquire the language skills, especially in French. And instead of scaring them and making French to be an impossibility, let's make it a possibility for our learners. Thank you very much for your attention. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir. Merci beaucoup. That should be enough. I hand over to...
Thank you so much, sir. I think it's a privilege to be on this panel. I'm the only junior. Yes, Professor James was saying he's a small professor. But I think the associate professor is the one that is the real junior. He was very polite. Thank you, sir. As a historian, I would like to engage this from the perspective of problem solving. Problem solving is a key pillar of historical studies. And first of all, the problem I think that has prompted this debate to start with is what I think has been going around, the relevance of humanities. You know, a lot of people have spoken to it. Keynote speakers, even my colleagues here have, pointed to that fact, the relevance of humanities. I'd like to point out this first thing, that you will not find this kind of discussion in the West. It will not happen in London, it will not happen in America. The relevance of humanities will not be debated. So why is it that the relevance of humanities is a problem in Africa? Why is it that the relevance of humanities is being debated and we are trying to look for ways to validate the humanities in Africa? That's where the historian comes in. Now, the education that the colonial masters gave Africans during the colonial period was different from the education that they give their own people in the colonial metropole. Number one, they made sure, very, very sure, that the colonial system of education that is given to us in Africa completely separates science from the humanities. Now, once there's a disconnect between science and the humanities, then your education will not be able to produce development. So when we are looking at post-colonial development frameworks for Africa, that's one of the key things that we look at as historians. Why was it that colonial education deliberately separated? Philosophy was not being taught when the colonial masters came. It was deliberate. History was not being taught. It was deliberate. So that you cannot know where you are coming from. If you know where you are coming from, you know where you are going. Trevor Roper told us that we don't have any history, and that was what was being told to students in the colonial period. So the moment you separate humanities from sciences, you have separated the head from the body. Now we have scientists going around very, very confident of their place as the reasoning place. They're completely detached from the whole body, which is the human being. That is a clear strategy to make sure that you keep a people under subjugation, because their education can never produce anything. You see people on TV talking about African professors, they cannot produce anything. African institutions cannot produce anything. The reason is because they have systematically separated the humanities from the, sciences. There's no synergy. So that no matter what you do, there's no connection between the science and the humanities. That's the reason why interdisciplinarity is now becoming such a hot subject, because Africa is now emerging. Africa is one of the fastest emerging economics and social pools that are leading the world. So this is not a new thing. It is something that we suddenly discovered, that in order to move research to move social constructs forward and make them productive, science and humanities have to mesh together just like the head and the body. And that's, usually sciences engage with this, that, the head is so intelligent, it gives direction and everything. But science has also been able to establish that without the heart, which contains about 40,000 neural cells, the whole direction of the body cannot be obtained. The mind thinks because they have neural cells, okay? But the heart has 40,000. So the heart has both neural cells and can feel. So that's how important the humanities is as the body. So we have science that cannot resonate with human beings. Why? Because it is not connected with humanities. I heard a professor once say something very derogatory. He said theater arts is jumpology. And this is a professor that had white hair on his head. I looked at him and I couldn't speak. I just kept quiet. The question is, why is it that in the Western world, you have in Harvard, Faculty of Arts and Science? Harvard, Faculty of Arts and Science. It's not Faculty of Science. So the colonial master wanted to suppress you and keep you underdeveloped. And that was one of the strategies. Separate the two disciplines. I'm writing my inaugural lecture. This is going to be part of it. Now, one of the key things that we must observe in Africa and in the humanities is to understand the historical trajectory of civilization so that you know your place as a humanities and the same place as humanities that the West is using to develop themselves. How is it that the West use humanities to develop themselves while we can't do it? In Africa here, it is subsumed. We are told that humanities is not relevant. Now, unfortunately, the lie that was sold to Africa is that science is the foundation of civilization. Science is not the foundation of civilization. The historian will tell you that 200,000 years ago, language emerged among Homo sapiens. That means for close to 4,000 years, the humanoids, they were just roaming around like, primates. But the moment language emerged, the capacity to communicate information, communicate solution, to debate a problem and reach a resolution arrived. So language is the foundation of civilization, not science. It is not medicine, it's not chemistry, it's not biology. Because if the language, if pure language has not been able to emerge, there's no way they can communicate knowledge. So when language emerged among humanoids, Homo sapiens, historically established and also anthropologically, then civilization now began to record information philosophically. They began to think and debate solutions. So philosophy was the next foundation. The capacity to think and then do what? Resolve solutions. That's why we are told that philosophy is the father of all disciplines. You have a PhD, a doctor of what? Philosophy. Not a doctor of biology. Now, philosophy now became the foundation of mathematics, which is the foundation of every other natural sciences. Because mathematics is the language of the universe. So, philosophy, how did philosophy become the foundation of mathematics? By asking yourself a question, you need to be able to put that question down and how it joins with another question, adds with another question and results into something else. Or it subtracts from another mindset and then results into something else. That's how Pythagoras resulted into mathematics. Subsequent to that, all of this information has to be put together and passed down to the next generation. That's where history comes in. Without historicity, the capacity of collecting this information and passing it down, it cannot be preserved. We cannot have it for the next generation. And thereby, there's no way other minds can ruminate on it and then advance that particular knowledge. So history came next. Now you need to be able to pass that information through various means. That's why literature, drama, and other aspects of humanities came. Once all of this was not able to be passed by other means, now people who are thinking biologically, chemically, and physically cannot take hold of this information and then move civilization forward. So science is a vehicle for civilization. It's not the foundation of civilization. So people in the humanities must understand where you are. The white man covered your eyes to your value, because if you understand your value, then you can be able to break yourself free from colonialism. But it is too late now. The humanities have woken up. Finally, I have 42 seconds. I want to mention this fact. AI is one of the most powerful revolutions that have ever come into human existence. Currently, we are at the 5th stage of AI development. The 5th stage. And this has 7 stages. The next stage is artificial general intelligence. Then the final stage is artificial super intelligence, which is called synchronicity. Now, at this stage now, with the stage of reasoning, we are able to have what we call AI hallucination. There are a lot of things that AI will tell you that are outrightly, just creating it in his head because the prompts that you sent in were wrong. Okay? So, from what all the panelists have said, you need to be careful about how you use AI, because there are some information that are hallucinated. They are not necessarily founded on truth. But once we reach artificial superintelligence or synchronicity, AI doesn't need human beings any longer. That's where the film, The Matrix, comes from. It doesn't need you any longer because it can reason, do everything absolutely by itself without your own input. So AI will control all of us by that time. So it is very important that we begin now to create studies that should create a buffer between us human beings, like Professor Decker said, and AI. Because when we reach artificial superintelligence or synchronicity, there'll be a problem. Thank you very much.
It's very interesting for me. I think it was a good job I was chosen to be chair, because I'm learning more and being over 30, 40 years ago in the US, where similarities, joinings, understanding, expansions, growth, and trying to find stories going into courses and subjects going into one another. I also remember Alabama, University of Alabama. I'd taken the play Gods Are Not to Blame, written by Ola Rosemi, and it was an adaptation of Oedipus Rex. And we took it to go and show them the Nigerian version of Oedipus Rex. And they said, I was a young doctor, very angry like Professor Fianca, And they said, please, could you give a short talk to the psychology students? And I said, psychology. I mean, we came here to dance, make speeches, what has psychology got to do with this? And they said, okay, Prof, can you just come along? So I went along, and we sat down. And they said, well, we are looking at the psychic state of mind of Odewale, who was one that all they told him is that a butterfly calls himself a bird. And I said, no. So what has that got to do? It's a proverb. In Yoruba, it's just for him to calm down. And that's why the man says, do nothing. Stay where you are. And they said that is a whole psychological debate. And that they want to look at the state of mind. And they want to and I realized later that I was just a subject of study. They wanted to know whether I was as angry, my temperament of the black man. And do not forget Alabama. That was a slave depot. They killed quite a lot of. In fact, I remember after the discussion and the class, and I went back to the hotel, I could hear people screaming. This was the state of my mind. I must have been hungry then. But when I woke up the next morning, I asked somebody, I said, excuse me, this hotel is so well lit. He said, yes. They used to kill and hang black people here. That was when I said, oh yeah, I think it's time to go back home. But it's always because even the white man, from my own point of view, has always realized that first he lied about civilization. And it's just now that they're beginning to confess. You understand? In fact, right now they're beginning to say they even lied about the colors of the apostles, that they were all blacks. You understand? And so you begin to find out that the lies are coming out. And that whether we know, we may be walking back to the covered lie. And that's why interrelationships between courses is also very important. And I want to rest my case. I'm just chair. So what I want now is I want us to ask questions. How long do we have to ask questions? We have a bully here who keeps giving us signs when to stop. But I think he wants to hand over the job to somebody else. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Please, could we please be on our feet as we appreciate our panelists today? We're so grateful. Please, let's keep clapping as they walk back to their seats. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, thank you very much. Can we have our seat? All right, I am really so sorry. I think I heard wrong. But please, questions have been requested. So we're going to take a couple of questions. Let me see the first set of persons put up their hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Please, I would like to urge us to come forward. I hope you don't mind. But I'm going to take, I'll take a, all right. So please, for those of us with the questions, I would urge that we just come forward. I would only give exception to Prof here so that we take your questions. Please, we want to take the questions in just 2 seconds, quickly.
Have you? Well, thank you very much. God will honor you. I'm not averse to AI or any technology, but I just want us to probably consider what I want to say. That in a situation where we give topics, assignments to students, and before you know it, the students have returned their answers much more perfect than what you yourself do not even speak. The language you yourself do not even speak. And then they bring it up, and that's their response. And so my concern really is that I'm not contesting what my professors have said, but where's the position of reading, and where's the position of research, and the rigor in trying to synthesize, before synthesis, the thesis, the antithesis, and then the synthesizing. And then they come up with their own way of reasoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. So quickly, we're going to take questions. Okay.
Okay, my question is this. Last year I read a novel from Japan. Rumi Kawakami wrote the novel, and post. It's about posthumanism, where artificial intelligence take over the world. And the first sentence in that novel is, there was a country named Japan. All right, and that shows that humanity went into extinction rather, in that novel. All right. Now my question is, in Africa, where we have not fully immersed ourselves in artificial intelligence, not to talk about start writing about it, literature, novels, drama, and acting, what can we do in order to make sure that our future is safe, in order to make sure that people understand benefits of AI and also the adverse effects of AI?
Good morning, everybody, once more. I have a few questions. I'll be really quick. So, I heard lots of professors mention repeatedly that your research solve a problem. And I want to know, should every research actually solve a problem, or some should just exist for the sake of knowledge? This is my reason. My final year project was on the politics of fashion as a tool of diplomacy, because I studied international studies and diplomacy. And in our Nigerian society, that was my focus. I couldn't find materials at all. I nearly dropped the topic, but I found a way to go about it with my own research. So it felt like
Permit me to introduce myself. Dr. Olushola Aina from Crawford University, Ogun State. It's like they read my mind, and this is something I've been so passionate about. And I look at our society today, I discovered that the issue of language, because we use language, English language everywhere, and it's like the language of everything in Nigeria, and that's why we have been so entrenched in the Western culture and every other thing. My thinking is, we've been talking about this for a while. I've been so passionate about it. I take it to my classroom. It's like a gospel for me to say our language is suffering, our culture is suffering. We cannot even the theories we use to explicate our experience is a bit awkward because we don't have local culture, local theories that can actually relate to our experience. The question is it not possible? We have been talking, we keep talking, but can we come up with a communique or something that could be available to the public or to academics all over the place to know that if language is so important, like the other person said, why are we not thinking and rethinking of making knowledge available with our local languages? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, our professors. I really am thankful for being here this morning, and I'm so thankful for the insightful speeches that they have given. I want to thank all of the professors, and I want to ask a question about what Professor Adebile just said. She said we have to decolonize our curriculum, and also I write further that our perspective and our reception or acceptance of the AI. However, Professor Fianca said that we have to understand history so that we will know where we are. And I realized that it is very important to know our ambivalence. We were colonized. We can't erase it. So how do we now utilize the current reality to write the new story? Because AI itself, they take annotations. They will pay you to tell them something. If you look out for skits, films that are developed by AI, Africa is described in a particular way that we have pictured Africa negatively. So AI is giving us back what we give to it. So how does this awareness become something that is practical and can really change the wrong narrative? Because it's looking like we are having a continuum of colonialism.
Thank you very much. Their hands were not up initially, but I hope I can take them, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adoluwa Estadefo, and my question goes to the professor of religion. So I want to ask, how does religion shapes conflicts more? Based on the issues happening in Nigeria, conflicts happening in Nigeria, does religion affect it negatively or positively?
Thank you very much, esteemed professors,
distinguished doctors, and my colleagues. Okay, Dr. Fianca mentioned that in order to move research forward, science and humanities have to merge together, or they are currently merging together. He also gave the illustration of Harvard Faculty of Arts and Sciences. Before now, I somehow believed that the methodology of the sciences was almost completely different from our methodology in the humanities. But today, I've heard something different, that it is like removing the head from the body. So I would like to ask, how specific illustrations of how art and science can be merged together to move research forward. How do we merge that methodology? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll take.
Please, as we were talking, I noticed a lot of people are coming concerning language, that we should make use of our local language. The question I ask is that if all history books, for instance, is translated to Yoruba, wouldn't it be limited to Yoruba people? And then we were heading there that it will promote development. I said every nation, we can, if we agree on one, that is ours, that is African, then every other books, every other knowledge is translated to that, then we can say it's ours. But once we are now going in different direction, how are we going to have that development? That means if I am a Yoruba, I can have access to all the books that are translated in Igbo, and the knowledge there will be private to me. I think development comes when Africa have their own indigenous language that are generally acceptable, that this is our own, and all our books will now be translated. That's when we can move forward.
All right, thank you very much. We'd like to appreciate all those who have asked questions. Now, what I'm going to do is the responses would start with the panelists. All right.
Thank you very much. And I want to say I'm very happy for the reactions towards my one or two sentences I made. You see, in this part of the world, I've come to discover that one major problem we have is that we are not susceptible to change. We find it difficult to change, but change is inevitable. It is, AI has come to stay. The chair mentioned something, that all these things we were discussing they happened 30, 40 years ago. My colleagues, when we in this part of the world, we still sit down to say that we shouldn't allow our students to use AI, then we have nowhere to go. Now, when I said we should allow the use of AI, wait. Listen. When I said we should allow the use of AI, you know, I want to make an illustration. As a mother, and I have a daughter, and I would always hide her in my bosom. I will not give her the required freedom needed to know her environment. What do you think will happen when she finally leaves? So rather than saying, this is AI, I will not collect it from you, go on. Why don't we expose them to it, train them about how to use? Do you know that there is a course that trains how students should use AI? It's online. You use AI to develop the skill of critical thinking. So, obviously, we are not using it right. We are not using it right because we are not facing reality. What we are saying is that they should not use it. It does not develop their critical thinking. See, that's some perceptions that I've realized. I said we carried out a research recently. Some old school, I'm also an old school anyway. Some old school professors believe that AI kills your sense of reasoning. No, that is not it. Until we release ourselves to know what is happening around us, AI will sell us. We will be shortchanged the moment we do not release ourselves to accepting it. Now, what do we do after we've accepted it? We need to train both lecturers and students on its use so that it doesn't kill our critical thinking. Rather, it exposes us to so many other things that the teachers may not even know about. I hope I have communicated. Second, yes, sir.
Yes, like what Dr. A just said. Please, ma, they are clapping, and I know why they are clapping. I know why they are clapping. Both PG and undergraduates. See, yeah, I know why they are clapping. Now, ma, I want us to, AI is, like what I tell them, is only a means to an end, and not an end in itself. So, but they use it as an end. I will give an assignment. Somebody will just go to AI, put the question there, copy it, and paste. It's not an end.
I'm very aware of what Dr. Ben, I appreciate his concerns. You know why? You will be killing your own selves academically when you do that. So what I'm now suggesting is that I appreciate Dr. Aye's concerns too, because that is what we experience as lecturers, especially in English. But my point is this. When a student wants to embark on a research, and she goes on to copy and bring a final copy of the work without you discussing, without you, having any dialogue at all, then you sit him or her down, you put that work aside, and you start afresh. You begin to discuss. Let the student come to you regularly, so that even if he is going to use AI, you must have helped to him or her to think. Let him or her think, generate ideas. And what does AI do? Let's even ask that question. What does AI do? AI enhances. It enhances your writing. It helps you to organize your ideas. And it also encourages. See, Professor Tunde Decker, sorry, sir. Wait. When I started talking, what I said first was that we need to be true to ourselves. We need to be true to ourselves. He mentioned something. Who am I? Am I a human being? When we are talking about AI, what we are doing today is trying to interrogate the fact that, will I allow AI to take my space as a human being? No. So you need to interrogate AI. You don't have to copy and paste, and then it shows that, sorry to use that word, if you do that, if you copy and paste, it shows your level of stupidity. And by yourself, you are exposing. So, thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Now, the Chairman LOC has just given me a marching order. And the marching order is that I have just a professor to speak right now because we have other things to do. And that we're going to continue the discussion a lot later. So please, may I just request, out of our panelists, a professor who would like to respond very quickly? Okay.
Thank you very much. Actually, I was expecting this kind of reaction, so it's not strange. Let me react to at least two of the questions. The one that is asking that is research meant to solve problems or for the sake of knowledge? It is because of our perception about research. In this part of the world, that is why we are thinking that research is not meant to solve problems. The essence of research is to solve problems. But in most cases, when you have labored so much, you have spent so much on any research, those people supposed to work on that, the result of that research to solve problems. They will keep such results in the shelf. So that is the problem. But the essence of research is to solve problems. Don't just think that it is only to add to knowledge. It can add to knowledge, but the essence is to solve problems. So that is that. The person that asked question whether religion is should have solved all the problems that we have in Nigeria. Well, at the Yellow Lagoon. You do know that the chicken you see, they sweat. But because of the feather, you won't be able to see the sweat. So that is exactly the problem we have. I want to liken that to what somebody said. He said, if you bring the best professor from Harvard to come and solve the economic problem in Nigeria, he's going to fail. So that is exactly what is happening to religion. No, religion is not trying. It's trying in all ways to solve problems, but the conflict is politicized. That is just the answer. Not that religion is not trying. Religion is trying, but religious crisis is politicized. And to solve such problem, it will be very, very difficult. I don't know if it can be solved before Jesus comes. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I think I'll just invite the chairman, LOC.
Thank you very much, professors and colleagues. We're running out of time, so we really have to let it go at this moment. But please, let me just say one or two things. I want us to go with one thing. The essence of this meeting, this session, is not about AI or no AI. The essence, the real essence is that we go from here and we begin to engage interdisciplinarity. Don't just sit as an English scholar and begin to analyze nouns and verbs and what is the game? No. Engage in with other colleagues in other fields. In English, digital humanity is there, right? Neurophonetics is there. What else? Medical humanities, environmental humanities. See how you can engage. And the challenge we have is that many of us, we run away from sciences because, I'm sorry, I tell my students this, that we didn't like maths, right? But today, we can't run away from maths. In fact, it's a great disservice for any nation to say that math is not needed for art students. A great disservice. Because like Professor Fianca said, we need to synergize. We are together. And today, someone was telling me this morning, a literature master student, that she's doing quantitative analysis in literature. I never heard that before. Quantitative in literature. So these things are happening today. From here, let's go and see how I can work with someone in biology, someone in medicine, someone in chemistry, and see what we can do together. We had a professor here a few weeks back, right? From Ile-Ife, when we had our workshop. Music and is connecting with different fields. That is what we are going away with here this afternoon already. Finally, AI. Like Prof said, AI has come to stay. Either we discourage it or not, they will use it. But what we talk about now is responsible use of AI. Fortunately, Professor Dairo Professor Adebileje, my very self, we took a course on this about 2 years ago through VICB, NUC VICB, and it opened our eyes to so many things. And I just discussed with the dean, with his permission, the seminar committee will be floating a course on responsible use of AI. So that, by God's grace, we'll discuss the dean to do that. If you ask them to, they will say, but how can they use it responsibly without bringing a complete work to you? And it means we have to go a step ahead of them too. So I pray God will help us to be able to achieve this. I hand over to the compere.
All right, I have the chairman of the program committee who would reel out to us what we're going to be doing in the next parallel sessions.
Thank you very much. I was wondering, Professor Ladipupo tried to solve a problem, and he created another problem by taking our time. So we have to match so many things to manage our time very properly. And I will announce our breakout sessions. And after that, we'll take our brunch and take them with us so that we don't waste much time. I'm just going to read out your room and then the venue of the breakout session. For room 1A, you are going to use ELR04 in engineering here. It's on the second floor. ELR04. Engineering here is on the second floor. And the chair of that panel is Professor Afolorinsho Dairo. Dr. Alabi is not available currently. Please note that. For room 2A, we have Dr. Adetuji Oni sharing that panel. And you are going to use EMLT4 in engineering here, second floor. Please note that. For room 3A, shared by Dr. Stephen Ayer, you are going to use the Fixes Lab at Josephus Institute across the road. And, sorry, for room 1A, the rapporteur for that group is Mr. Emmanuel Aderoju Adeyemo. Please note that. ELR 04, engineering. For room 2A, the rapporteur is Ms. Jumoke Adu. Please note that. EMLT4, second floor, engineering. For room 3A, shared by Dr. Stephen Ayer, the rapporteur is Mr. Jordan Eden. Please note. For room 4A, shared by Dr. Bernard Fianca, you will use Josephus Institute, room JLR001. JLR001, Josephus Institute. The rapporteur is Mr. Amadi Keleshi. Please note. Room 5A, shared by Dr. Tinuade Olayinka. You are using EMLT05, engineering here, and the rapporteur is Ms. Ajayi Oluwatosin. Please note. For room 6A, shared by Dr. Benjamin Anamena, you are going to use Josephus Institute, the seminar room. And the rapporteur for that is Mrs. Esther Omoke. For room 7A, shared by Dr. Koho, you are using JLR002, Josephus Institute. And the rapporteur is Bello Eunice. I hope the person, the middle name has some issues with
my writing. Please note that. JLR 002. Oluwa. Bello Boluwa Tife Eunice. Please note. Room 8A, shared by Professor Julius Adeoye. You are using the first floor, Engineering EMLT 01, first floor. The rapporteur for that group is Tricia. Is that? Okay, Miss Tricia Dan Ibikiton. Please note, I hope she's around. Now, some of us arrived late or our names were not reflected in the initial grouping. Please, if you are here, pay attention. I'm going to read out where you will meet. That may take us a few minutes. I'll just read the title of your paper and I will mention where you will have your presentation. The influence of Christian education on youth character formation in Osun State. You go to room 1A. Please note that. Rethinking African theater, interdisciplinary approaches to performance as a tool in education. 8A, that is Professor Adeoye's group. And interreligious dialogue, gender and human flourishing in a polarized global society. 4A, room 4A. Colonial legacy imprint on urban green spaces in a post-colonial city. Implication for climate resilience. Room 6A. Literature and healing, well, that is going to be in the afternoon. Bibliotherapy, scriptotherapy in the experience of clinical workers in Nigeria, room 6B, that will be later in the afternoon. Development of neo-Pentecostal movement in Tarok land and their commitment to ecological mission, 1A, room 1A. I will jump the B groups until afternoon. Mediating conflict, digital banking, and everyday life during the 2022 to 2023. You know the title if you are the one. Room 7A. Unending voices. Okay, that is in the afternoon. If that is your paper, that is 4B in the afternoon. The flourishing paradox, interfaith activists navigating competing visions of gender and the good life, room 1A. Exploring the intersection of postmodernism and gender politics in digital media narrative, room 4A. Artificial intelligence and technical theater practice, transformation, tension, and creative possibility, room 8A. Reimagining the humanity through theater and interdisciplinary studies of performance, culture, philosophy, and history, room 8A. Developing a neo-Pentecostal movement, I think we have already mentioned that, repeated. Godwin Wafai, if it's the same person, room 1A. And lastly, understanding the lived experience of twin children from Yoruba culture, room 1A. I hope there is nobody that is omitted. Please, if you are omitted, indicate. If everybody is taken care of, yeah, the virtual is already taken care of. It is communicated to them on a platform. If I say it here, they won't hear me. So they are well taken care of. Please, we go for our brunch. It's no longer breakfast nor lunch. Take your brunch with you and move to your breakout session. After that, we come for lunch. And after the lunch,
Yeah, ordinarily, this session is supposed to last the... It's an 1 hour 30 minutes session. Please, let's manage it very well. After that, we come for lunch. After lunch, we come back here and deal with some of the questions we couldn't deal with at this session before we go for the second breakout session. I wish you the best of interaction. Thank you.
All right, quickly would like to urge our participants to move to the right to have their brunch. We apologize once again for the delay in making the breakfast at this point. Yeah. All right, please, for the participants, there is an excursion immediately after the second parallel session, and that's